Yeah, go on.
All right. Hello and welcome to the Black Women Working podcast.
Hello.
It's Chantel here.
It's Natalie.
You right, babes?
I'm good.
Yeah. Cool. I wanted to play a game, but I don't even have the question.
Just do what's on your heart. Let the spirit lead. Go on.
All right. So, play the yes no game.
Okay.
How are you today?
I'm great.
You're great.
I'm great.
You know you're not supposed to repeat. Good day in the office.
It was okay.
Nobody got on your nerves.
Not that I recall.
You're all right at this, are you?
I'm okay.
So I'm getting a sense you don't have a problem saying no.
You're such a cow.
I'll leave you.
Do you know what? Like, listening to Deja Vu on a Sunday, DJ Frisky, and people trying to do the yes no game and him catching them out. That is like a core memory of growing up.
You are a Londoner.
You know,
of the early 2000s.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Frisky's doing the good
Lord's
stuff
work
at the moment right
He's
now.
Doing the Lord's
His
work.
morning show for the kids. Oh my God. It's
Is
not
it
just
good?
for the kids.
It's for everyone.
If you ever have the opportunity to listen at about 8:20, that's when he kicks in and he does a live call-in for the kids. They do their affirmations. You've got Nyla Janae, she's got some affirmation. She's got 2 affirmation tracks, like banging. Honestly, 8:20.
Okay, all right. I'm
on
have
Top
to check
FM.
in.
It's not Deja anymore.
Oh, anyway.
Anyway,
okay.
look at me calling out DJ Frisky Hail Up before I've even done our own socials. Let me do the housekeeping and then we'll get into why I'm asking you how good you are at saying no. So welcome everybody. You can find us, so please keep our conversations going using our social media handles at BWW Podcast UK. You can also find us on LinkedIn, Black Women Working, as well as emailing us using our email blackwomenworkinguk@gmail.com.
Thank you.
And I'd be interested to hear some of the conversations around today's topic. Before I get into that, even though I kind of kicked off, because today we're going to be talking about saying no. Mm-hmm. I thought we'd revisit an age-old topic that we've covered at least 3 times, including our first international collab with Breaking Concrete. We spoke. Yeah. The episode was called "The B Word." Yeah, burnout. So, unfortunately, although we are 5 years on into the podcast, it remains a hot topic. Research carried out by, so I'm just going to reel off some bits I gathered. Research carried out by Future Forum, which is an organisation backed by Slack, the workplace software for productivity, in 2021 found that a survey of over 10,000 full-time desk workers polled across 6 countries, including the US and UK, found 40% said they were burnt out, which the World Health Organization defines as increased mental distance from one's job, feelings of energy depletion and negativism. In actual fact, a few years before this, in 2019, I didn't know this, the World Health Organization announced that burnout would be included as an occupational syndrome that can result in exhaustion, cynicism, and reduced professional efficacy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're not just talking, burnout, I'm tired. It is actually linked to work.
It's a mental thing as well. So it's not just like if you sleep for a day, you're gonna have energy. It's a mental thing as well.
Absolutely. And interesting enough, but maybe not surprising, there are 2 types of people who are at greater risk of burning out than anyone else. And those groups are women and workers under the age of 30.
That's interesting.
Now, in this survey, they found that nearly half of the 18 to 29-year-olds said that they feel drained, compared to 40% of their peers aged 30 and over. And women, 46% of those surveyed reported higher levels of burnout than men, which was at 37%. Now, the reasons behind this, they say, is that Gen Z so that's our under 30s, are typically working harder because of the economic uncertainty. So they're trying to prove themselves and make as much money. Well, a portion of Gen Z, because we know the other side are like soft life. And then the explanation for the gap in terms of women is to do with gender inequalities. And, I've referenced it before. Research found that women are less likely to be promoted, more likely to be the head of single parent households and take on unpaid labor. So burnout is in kind of all spheres of their work.
All areas of life.
Now, looking at women in particular, Deloitte carried out a paper or research, and it's called Deloitte's Women at Work 2022, a global outlook. And that research found that burnout was a driving factor for nearly 40% of women actively looking for a new employer. Now, for me, I'm like, while some of our workplaces are toxic and we do need to get out of there, it is possible to experience burnout anywhere. So to say I'm going to leave this job and I'm going to be absolutely fine doesn't quite identify or deal with the underlying
That's
causes.
funny, because I remember when I was talking to my therapist and I was like, I was going to quit my job. And she was like, yeah, you can quit your job, but if you're not careful, you'll just get another job. And it'll take all the unhealthy habits you have and the unhealthy attitude towards work into this new job, because sometimes it's the job that's the problem, but sometimes you are contributing to it.
So one of those contributing factors, and I don't say that with judgment or blame, but is the idea of how when we speak about boundaries, let's be a bit more practical. What does boundaries mean? And one of those things is about saying no. And when I was preparing for the episode, most of the headlines were, it is just so hard to say no at work because you don't want to be labelled as being difficult or not being a team player, and even potentially dealing with possible repercussions. Is it hard to say no at work?
I think it's absolutely, it's very, very hard. And I think that the reality is it always depends where the ask is coming from. If the ask is coming from someone more senior and you believe that you're going to be like iced out, or you're going to be, future opportunities are going to be passed over, you're going to be passed over for future opportunities and things like that, then there's a inherent fear linked in saying no.
Right.
So I think it's absolutely hard to say. It's very hard to say no. But also, more importantly, it's about what you say no to. So, and I think we talked about this before on the podcast, that there is like an office work phenomenon as well, where like you're at your job and you're not just doing your work product. You're, especially for Black women, you're in the women's network. Then you're running you're on DE&I. And then you're kind of running events for school kids. Then you're signing up to be a mentor. Then you're going to a networking event. And then you're
part of X committee.
Part of this committee, part of that committee, and and all that kind of stuff. So that is where I feel like there is a split. Because sometimes
a lot of our work is not the work that's on the job description.
You're taking the words literally out of my mouth. And a lot of work and progress about work is about exposure and about relationships. And even I realized very soon on in my kind of corporate career that I could use other things. That wasn't the only reason I was doing it, but I could use other things like pro bono work, community initiatives, diversity work. I could use that to give myself more. And not just me, a lot of other young Black lawyers were doing it as well, to just give yourself more of a focus, because that is the thing that makes you stand out, but you can also flip it and make it a USP.
Yeah, and also what's important to you, because just because you do a certain job or you're in a certain profession doesn't mean that...
No, I just, it is, I think it's like, I think that this is one of the inherent pressures with being young Black professionals, especially when you're the only one in your firm or the only one in your industry. We're always kind of learned like, each one, teach one, reach one, So it's like, as soon as you get into a workplace, not all people, but some people will be like, right, there's no black people here. Like, there's no diverse people here. What can I do to improve things? And now firms are taking DE&I even more seriously. The DE&I person that they hire and pay money to will be, can I have a coffee with you? What do you
They want more of your time.
Do you get what I'm trying to say?
And it is important to you, but also...
It's unpaid labour, right? And then that work is valued differently. So it's all these things I feel like that are contributing factors on top of the fact that you need to perform and do a good job that I think lead to burnout, which is why it's so critical to be able to say no. I am not a very good I'm not very good at saying no.
Well, I was going to say, like, do you have any experiences of when reflecting back, you think, I should have definitely said no?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to learn.
Do you remember your pivotal moment?
I can, but it's at this current firm that I'm at, so I don't want to be coming here saying, oh, now I'm unemployed. Yeah. But I remember a time particularly when something in my spirit said, get out. And I just participated in it. Everything worked out in the end, but I was really tired. I really at that moment needed to be prioritizing my health. I didn't really get the appreciation. I didn't feel that I got the appreciation that I deserved for the work and ideas that I had. And then I was like, I could have taken this and given it to the podcast. I could have taken this and just written it down in my notebook and burnt the notebook, and then would have still felt the same level of satisfaction.
I'm sorry, babe.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah. And this is why I had to do like a reevaluation. Like, what is it that is important to me? I remember when we started, when we said, what is the strategy? What is the vision? And it's like, sometimes you're saying yes to everything because you're just saying yes to everything because...
Oh, that's good. That's an opportunity. That's exposure. That's, yeah.
But there is a difference between... And I remember my dad used to make me and my brother listen to this Miles Monroe, rest in peace, tape. There's a difference between a good opportunity and a right opportunity. And what is good is not always right. And when you don't have like an overall end game of like where you're trying to get to, and this is like beyond like a 12-month, an 18-month, a 3-month, a 6-month plan. When you don't know specifically what you're trying to achieve, you're more susceptible to say yes to things when you don't have the time because you don't have a zero focus. And like, I think we see all these snippets on Instagram about really successful people and really hardworking, and we've talked about hard work versus soft life, but I think the key to remember is that it's not about going ham. It's about being focused and taking the time that you have and consistently going towards one direction. If you've got like, this is the way I see it when it comes to saying no. If I've got a map and I'm trying to get to your house, so I come out the station, I don't want to say which station, I don't want you to get stalkers.
You know what, I'll follow me.
And the map is telling me I need to go that way to get to your house, but then I cross the road and go to the shop.
Right.
And then I turn back around and go back to the station. And then I go here and then I see my friend and I decide to, he's walking the opposite direction, I decide to follow him. A journey that could have taken me 25 minutes might take me 2 days.
Because you're just all over the shop, backwards and forwards.
And that is how you have to see it when you say yes to things that are not aligned with what you're trying to achieve. And that's a slightly different burnout from being overworked, because I think there's a burnout from being overextended in just things that are not work at your workplace, in your industry, and then actually having too much actual work to do.
I mean, I have got a list of like practical kind of check-in. Is it the time to say no? And you're right in terms of understanding like what's the strategy, what's the goal, whether that's for yourself personally or for an organization. So like I'm currently in quite a fortunate position that I've got a level-headed boss, and she's like, get the strategy down because I need you guys to say no.
Yeah.
Because if we know what we're doing,
we know what what serves us.
We know what serves us, and so we know when to say yes and we know when to say no. The difficulty, like, there's so many ways that we could talk about this conversation. But like when I think about, I thought about like, has there been a time when I could say no? And I always say this. I think I'm really glad that I served as a teacher. And I'd almost recommend that everybody does it.
Really?
Even if it's
Why?
for a short period. Because I just feel like the skills that you gain on the front line and the back end from being a teacher are so versatile across the board. But also, like, it's a bit of a gift and a curse, because the problem with being a teacher is it's very difficult to say no. As in, like, because you're on job, the boundaries get blurred. I'm not saying this is a good thing at all. The boundaries get blurred because it's like, well, I'm going to have to do this thing because the data is saying X and I need to move this group of students.
And I need to get my students up, so I need to work.
So you keep doing. Or, you know, on a really practical, like, here and now level, there's times where you can't say, if you've got a safeguarding issue,
you can't say I've got to mark books. You've got to deal with it.
You've got to respond, which means ultimately sometimes your workload just does things that you don't know what to do. Well, it can become unbearable, and hence why I'm not a teacher anymore. But there are times in my teaching career, like when I was reflecting, I was like, when I've made decisions about opportunities, and I have one opportunity in particular where I'm like, should you have done that? Should you have really done that?
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that's like, bruh, that should have been a no.
Trust me.
That was maybe a little bit outside your remit. Maybe, but I was aware of what was being asked of me in terms of the time commitment, in terms of the skill gap, and it's hard because this is in retrospect. Like in that moment, there was a moment in time where it went horribly wrong. That was the time. Like I first looked to leave teaching in 2018, and I stayed for another 6 years beyond that. So I could say at the point that it was going horribly wrong, I should have said no. I should have just said like kicked off. But then equally, 5 years continued, and
then you made the time, yeah.
So sometimes, like sometimes where we might think I should have said no, there's still like so much learning that takes place, so many opportunities that can come.
I get what you mean. But I think there's loads of different reasons why people don't say no. I think FOMO, like professional FOMO, like I know for me, like if I'm busy and then a deal that's like a high value, that was something that I can do, one of my highlights comes in, I'm probably going to be
go on, out yourself.
I'm probably, because what I want to say and what I'm going to say are different.
Are you telling us the truth?
I'm telling you the truth.
Okay.
In this perspective, I'm probably going to want to take that on, even if I'm really busy, because I might be busy doing a lot of crap or a lot of churning.
Right.
And because I'm doing a churning, when something that is more spicy, more notable, with more exposure comes along, I'm really gonna want to take it, right? Even though technically I don't have the capacity to take it. Then there are times where like it's external, you know, things external to my work product, where I'm gonna be like, if I say no, that's slightly effed up. Like a diversity project, a mentoring project, speaking on a panel, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Now what I am at, I'm just like, I've done so much of that stuff. I'm just like, I can never feel guilty, because I have done probably 50% more than I needed to do. So I'm going to let that 50%, that savings sit in the bank.
Yeah.
So I think there's all different, like, and then also I would say as well, is the idea, work hard, play hard.
The balance.
So the idea that like, I do want to go out on Sunday to be out with my friends who may not have had a stressful job as me, because I've been working like crazy and I feel like I need to release and I want to work hard and play. Like that's my payoff. Even though I know I'm going to start work on Monday groggy, I'm going to be tired. I do want to go to till, you know, back in the day, till 2 on a Thursday night, till 2 a.m, walking around Holborn, drunk, coming into work on Friday.
Yeah. I say I want to be tired on my terms.
Do you get what I'm trying to say? So I think the most important thing with no, like you say, is being very clear on what you want and what your outcome is. And I'm telling you now, this summer my outcome is to be outside.
Girl,
right?
I've been being outside.
Yeah, but you didn't invite me to anything, so let's talk about it
that's
offline.
That's a lie.
Because I
invite you and you don't come,
I saw you posted that I booked this ticket, I booked that. Anyway, we'll talk about it offline. I still love you. But
I haven't spoken about him today, so Marcus doesn't take a ticket. There's tickets there.
Poor Marcus. Poor Marcus. See how you're giving out his ticket.
I've told him claim it. He don't want to roll. He don't want to roll with me. He's too cool, isn't he? He wants to be with the man there.
He's too cool for us. But so everything that I am aligning myself to
is to free up yourself.
Is to free up for summer. So if that means that someone's at work is like, oh, do you want to join this D&I project and divert? No, because I'm trying to do the bare minimum, because I want to be rooftop bar Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I want to be, festival Saturday, Sunday. I want to be going to brunch. That's how I want to be living.
That's how you will be living.
That's how I will be living, because that's my priority. But if my priority this summer was to complete a personal project or to get to work towards getting promoted, I would have to be doing the opposite of that and saying, actually, no, I can't do any of those things because I have I'm focusing on my actual work business plan. But that would also mean saying no to certain work where possible, where feasible, that doesn't actually serve my immediate purpose. And now I'm a senior position, delegating. I feel like where it gets a bit harder, and this is where saying no takes on a new body of its own, is where you're in an under-resourced team or you're in a team where they believe that you should just be working all hours under the sun, regardless of health, regardless of physical health, mental health, family commitment, all of those kind of things. And I think that is where it becomes harder to actually say no. If we have a situation where we have three, like at the beginning of COVID at the firm I'm in, we had 3 associates just leave, leave. And then we had internationally as a firm, a hiring freeze because the market was uncertain. Yeah. That's why the hours just exploded the way they exploded. And then it was like...
those are circumstances where you can't say no.
No. I feel, go
on.
I feel like you can say no from hindsight 2020. It's about how you say no and what you say no to.
Go on.
So I remember I was talking to someone and they were kind of like, they have someone in their team who's like not senior to them that keeps trying to like delegate work to them.
Right.
That's very, and I was like, we talked about how you need to say no and explaining why you need to say no.
Yeah.
I think you've got more agency to say no in that situation.
Yeah,
bear in mind that was a white man and this was a black woman.
Yeah, it's not your senior.
Senior and the same. Or alternatively, better yet, if you feel like you can't say no, managing expectations, saying, I can get this done in a week's time, in 10 days' time, in 2 weeks' time. Right. I am doing X, Y, and Z for X, Y, and Z people. If this doesn't work for you, let me know what you want me to reprioritize. Right.
And
rather than just saying, yeah, I'll get to it. I'll get to it for you, or I'll get that back to you.
Because it is about, we always say this, it is about knowing having in your mind, in your backpack, the language that you will use. And I did come across a really good article from the Harvard Business Review.
I love that place. I love their books
as well. That looked at framing, like how you would say no to certain things.
It's important,
So like, let's go through some of these. So let's just say, so you've given the example of a colleague who's delegating to you, and
they're not they're not my boss.
So you've gone through that one. What about if you've said yes to something, but you overlooked your priorities or the project scope changes? So you've said yes, but now you need to say no.
Yeah.
How do you approach that conversation?
I think what you need to do is you need to set the mood music, and you need to just get the fact pattern and the timeline. I keep telling people when I talk to them about things that are happening at work, specifically contentious things, where is the timeline?
Yeah. But also like when we speak about timelines, what are these timelines? As in,
No, but in terms of
some timelines are not actually.
No. I think you're misunderstanding me. I'm saying we're in the timeline of what has actually happened.
Oh,
so on 1st of March, you had a conversation about this. Yeah. This was the extent of the conversation. 5th of March, you did X. It was fine. 10th of March, now this new aspect has happened.
Right.
What has changed in between? That's the timeline. Because I feel like if you're going to say to someone, I think it's the most difficult thing to say, and it will probably lead to you being labelled as unreliable if you say yes to something and then you cannot bring it to fruition. So if you have to do that, you need to be very clear on what has changed and why you can't do it. And you need to know what that timeline is.
So there's two things I want to bring into that. First of all, not saying yes immediately anyway.
That is a good point. Thinking about it before you respond.
Taking your time to not just think about the project or the ask, and think about where does this lay in the land of everything else.
Yeah.
And then secondly, also like that negotiation of timelines, because there are some things that we ultimately have to work to, like, you know, if you're a teacher, exam period, or
and
in accounting year end, like you have to meet those. But otherwise, dates can be arbitrary. Like, why the 10th of March? Like, so if you can negotiate the scope of your timelines to allow for you to be able to do the work, or you should consider that. Like, don't
create dates. Get there, just having it's not create dates, because if someone's asking,
it doesn't need to be a deadline.
They'll give you a deadline, but that's not necessarily you creating the date. That's the date being created for you and you challenging a date that's been created. I think what is more important is to make sure that before you've said yes, you understand what you've said yes to, and you've got as much information on the scope as is reasonable to ask in the situation.
Yeah.
And you've been clear about what you've got on your plate. So if someone says to me like, oh, do you want to jump on this new deal with me? And then I've got a lot on, I'm going to say, yeah, I can do that. I'm going to be asking, when is it going to be kicking off? Because I'm not going to be able to look at this
what do you need me for?
X, Y, Z. And, you know, is anyone else going to be... Like, just asking those questions, but not asking a way of, well, when do you need it for? Just be like, okay, cool. So can we get some... Do you like, having a look at the work scope, do you think we need some help with someone else in this project? Is there room for me? Like, just having it as, like, an open conversation rather than, like, kind of like, I don't want to do it defensive.
Understanding the parameters.
Yeah. But I definitely feel like not saying yes until you have as much information as is feasible and reasonable to have in that situation is 120%, 100 million% the way to go. And then being clear on what you understand the job to do from day one and what you understand the deadlines to be, so that if the scope changes, you have like, well, we spoke about it at the beginning of March, this is what I was doing then, this is what's happened, this is how the scope has changed.
Open communication.
I can do my part, but these additional tasks I'm going to need resource with.
But this is open communication. And again, I feel like a lot of things we say comes back to the idea of confidence. And maybe for our listeners who are newer into the working world or even in a job, I don't see it as a weakness. I think it shows that you are organised, that you've got leadership, that you've got a hold over what you're doing to come back and review and say, actually, X, Y, and Z, I can do I can provide you with alternatives. I can do this part or this part, but we're going to need...
Or I can stagger it. I can get this one done by this, and then I can get that done by that.
But that open communication to then not continue to take things on to the extent that you end up being burnt out or the work isn't done well, have that conversation about what you need or what the other person needs to allow for you to be effective.
Absolutely. And I think you need to know as well and take time to understand how you work best and what you need to work at your best. So everyone has their different theories. You need to do a certain amount of exercise. You need to drink a certain amount of water. You need to eat certain foods. Some people, for example, have, seasonal depression, SAD. Yeah.
So seasonal affective disorder.
Thank you. So if you know you're one of those people, you know during the particular winter months, it's going to be much harder for you to be productive. So maybe that's a period where you're on it. If you can afford it, you prioritize going on holiday so that you can get not artificial, but you can get your vitamin D. Or alternatively, it might be that during those times you possibly take more annual leave, or you communicate what you need to work best. That, because sometimes working and fighting against yourself, making your job harder on top of having a heavy workload, is going to lead to burnout.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of the reverse in that example.
What do you mean?
As in, like...
Are you a good winter worker?
I'm a good winter worker, but that's because I don't like to be outside in the winter. So I'm like, I'm going to be home anyway. So not that I'm working at home, but I know that, like...
See, to you, it's all right.
I'm not outside, but summertime...
But the thing is,
that's me knowing how I work. Knowing.
Like, for me, I know that even though I fight it, is like, I need detailed to-do lists. I need, like, if I plan my day, like the structure of it, the day before, that, say if I'm planning tonight, I'm planning Wednesday. Yeah. And I plan it detailed, Wednesday is going to be a vibe. If I do not plan, Wednesday is going to be chaos. You're going to be asking me how I am. I'm going to be saying my singlet's been torn. Like, so while some people might be like, oh, taking half an hour to write a to-do list is just ridiculous, it's not. It's important for me.
Yeah. But also not varying from that. And it's so funny,
and honouring that and being consistent.
Not on a work tip, but the other day, a family member spontaneously came by.
Oh, you let them in?
I was like...
Did you let them in your house?
Like, I did. And I might have come across as really antisocial and a meanie, but I was like... So I'd done an activity with the children in the morning, and I was going out in the evening, and then they'd come, really have a lot of time. They'd come in the middle chunk, and I was like, I'm not going to be entertaining you. And they were like, I need to know how to do my hair, or what should I wear, and I'm like, you are asking me to think about things that I did not plan to think about.
They just turned up.
A no. And I know that would have been like probably received as quite off, or have I upset her? But I'm like, it's a no, because I didn't plan that into my mental capacities or the logistics of my day. Like, if you know how you work and you've got that, then you're allowed to say no and not feel bad. But I guess, you know, it comes with practice. It comes with knowing yourself. That's true. What about this one, just in terms of language? I won't do too much. If you're, especially when we think about opportunities, maybe being new at work, if you're asked to do a task that's outside of your skill set,
just be honest about it.
But how? Because
you don't
want to come off weak.
You know what I would say?
Or not knowing what to do.
It's not weak. You know what I would say?
But that's the fear that some people have.
And this is one of the first things that my first mentor ever taught me. Mm-hmm. And she was like, ask for a precedent. Ask for an example. Has it been done before? Okay. So she was like, someone asks you to do something, you don't have a clue how to do it. It is very unlikely. And this, I think this goes towards like this kind of tech, finance, creative industries. It's very unlikely that someone has not done something like it that you can use as a basis beforehand. Even if you go on the internet. Yeah. And I think this is what I say. I say, look, I haven't done that before, but I think based off of X, Y, and Z, I'll be able to give it a good shot. Do you have a previous example? If not, I can find one on the system, or I can, you know, or sometimes even go on Google.
Glad you said that, because I hadn't thought about that. And actually, an extension to that would be...
But also, sorry, one thing, I apologise. I didn't finish saying that with an acknowledgement that it's going to take you longer to do it.
That's the point that I was going to make. So when you're saying yes, can you build in the fact to acknowledge I'm going to be learning, there's certain things I'm going to be learning here. Do we have the scope and the time to allow for that? And if not, then I'm not the right person. That's hard though, especially if you see something really shiny that you know you really want to be able to add to your profile.
Something really shiny, and if you do it really shit,
it's worse than saying no, isn't it?
It's worse than saying no.
And the killing yourself to do it, and knowing that it still might not be done very well.
And the thing is that, like, really saying all that stuff about I haven't done it before, but X, Y, Z, but that is very different from saying no. If it's a situation where you don't actually have capacity, you should say, you should say, I genuinely don't have capacity. I've got this on my plate. If this can wait, I can do it. If you need it now, no. And And I think as long as you say it in a polite way and you try and say, I'm going to try and get resource for you, or I can help, or if there are any discrete tasks, I'm more than happy to help. No one wants to be heard, like, told no. Like, telling someone no is never going to be an enjoyable process.
Do you know what I found funny?
So you kind of just got to lean into the uncomfortableness. Only Beyonce can tell people no and be happy, and you know, be happy. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
On that discomfort and repercussions, I did chuckle a little. So I don't know who she is, but Karen Dillon, co-author of How Will You Measure Your Life.
I heard about this book. I need to read it, actually.
She says, like, if you say no to things because your workload or whatever, then you need to, like, keep an eye on the optics.
Yeah,
so don't say no, and then you're having chats at the water cooler, or you're going off home early. And I was like,
but she's right though. So that's about self-awareness.
Do you think she's right?
That is about self-awareness, because I think one of the problems with working, one of the problems with life is that people are always trying to measure up and understand what other people are doing. Same thing, like, people go on Instagram, see what people are doing, trying to measure how much money they have. People see you doing certain things, trying to think, well, how much time does she really have? What work is she really doing? If you're saying no because you're too busy, and then I see you chatting for 20 minutes at the water cooler, I'm not going to believe that you're too busy.
Brass.
And that sounds like really effed up, but it's true. And you wouldn't too. If you ask your colleague to do something and they're like, yeah, I'm too busy. I think going home early, you could be going home early to pick up your children. That is not the same. Going home,
that's taking breaks.
Going to a medical appointment, going to something you've got to do that I don't understand. I don't think that in life and doing this job, you don't need to take breaks. I just think that if it was me, do you know what I would do? I wouldn't stand up in the water cooler, be chatting for whatever minutes. If I was going to take my break, I would just go and take my lunch and leave and actually take a lunch. Does that make sense? Because I think when you're chatting in the kitchen and everyone's looking over, it's just like it becomes exasperated. Whereas if you go out and, like, actually, I need to take a lunch break, I need that for my sanity, and you're away from your desk, I think that's a very different dynamic from having a long ass conversation in the communal kitchen, people coming in, making their cup of tea, making their water, going about their business. Like, unfortunately, a lot of work is performative. Yeah. So, yeah.
The optics. Be mindful of the optics.
Sucks, though. I'm not going to lie. It kind of sucks.
Well, just to give some... So, I like that. So, we've got some, like, practical examples of, like, how do you manage different situations and what would you say? Asana has given us... So, when do you need to say no? A list of times where you're like, okay, actually, categorically, it's now kind of skipped. I should have done this before the how to.
Yeah.
But let me know if any of these speak to you. So if something is unnecessary and you know there's a better way to do it, if you're going to prevent scope creep, as in you keep adding and then it means you're not going to meet the project deadline or whatever.
Or things keep getting projects. People keep adding to the project. Yeah.
If it allows you to demonstrate your leadership skills.
No, I think I think more so saying no demonstrates that you're organised and that you are a good leader.
Yeah.
Because you
understand
what is capable, and you're prioritising the quality of the work product over just being a people pleaser.
And I think that's everyone's responsibility, because as a manager or as a leader, I have to be mindful that I'm not delegating too much or saying taking on, because in my mind I've got a team, the team can do it, but not really having a grasp of the capacity of my team. So that goes for the individual, but also from a leadership perspective.
And if someone that you manage is saying to you, actually, I don't have capacity, trying to find resource to try and understand what they're doing, to try and work out what they can prioritize as well.
Absolutely. Which kind of links to the next point, which is say no to show that you're reliable, and ultimately to prevent burnout.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other times when I just
don't want to do it.
Well, I did say, like, when can you not say no? So you've got time, you've got, like, when it's time sensitive, you've got when it's not your responsibility. Girl, can you really say when you don't want to do it?
No. I mean, there are times there's certain things I don't want to do. So I'll just delegate.
It's like, it needs to get done, but not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I'll say, actually, I can supervise this, I can facilitate this, but I'm going to delegate it to someone. I'm not going to do it.
Do it. Delegation's a big one, and we talk about this as well, like in our work in the podcast. So it's not the delegating / outsourcing, like not feeling like you have to be the person to be doing everything all the time. When you get to a certain
seniority as well, you get to a point where it doesn't actually make sense for you to be doing something. If like you're like a super senior person, you're doing a very basic menial task, I feel like it's not the best use of your time or skill.
Like I am actually better than this. Like, this is not what I should.
It's also just not efficient, and it's costing the business more money with my salary and where I am to do it.
That was a no moment for me. I remember that. So one of the times to say no that I come across was like when you're being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah, that is important.
I was like,
as well.
okay. So I read a bit further, and the examples they were given were things like, oh, if you're being made to like be a runner, make tea, blah blah. And I said that could never be me, like just couldn't be. But I remember when I returned to work post maternity,
first baby
my
or second,
second baby, and they effed up the timetable. I remember this. They over recruited, so they effectively replaced me.
I remember this. We were talking about it a lot. Yeah, and they were taking you for a year.
Yes, man. Although some people say, "Why didn't you enjoy it?" They had me sitting in the office. Like, some days of a 5-hour teaching day, I'd have one lesson.
It's a waste of your time.
Nothing. So I said no. I said, why am I sitting here? And I felt a bit mad for it, because I was like, I could literally be coming to work and just sitting.
But that's not who you are.
That's not who I am. And I was like, I'm also paying over the odds for my child to be looked after.
To sit at work and do nothing. It doesn't make sense.
I said no. And then, and that conversation there, like, I don't even know what, oh my God, when I think about that, and I think about the conversation, sitting down with the head teacher and her looking me dead in my face, telling me, so what do you want me to do?
It's like, I want to do a job. I'm here. You're paying me a salary to do nothing. You're wasting taxpayers' money.
Let me tell you something. If you don't have the answers, then I won't be here. This is the same woman that begged me to start in her school, you know.
Yeah.
And within, so I went back to work in the January. I was out by March. I didn't even have to serve a notice period. So no, I'm not doing that. Happy for that. Yeah, so no isn't always just like the day to day. Sometimes the overarching, like.
Also, I feel like you were missold. Like, you were told you were going to be doing something. You came back from maternity leave. You took time away from your family.
I don't even want to go into that. But do you know why? Because I should have really taken their ass to court. I should have. I really, really should have. I regret that.
I have a lot of times in my career where I just didn't feel like I had the agency to do that.
Sometimes be bothered. Sometimes be bothered. But I just couldn't.
Maybe that's another subject. I'm leaving here with something.
Girl. Drag them. So, do you have anything at the moment that you think you need to say no to?
No, because I'm just saying no, like, all the time, and
I'm not saying no for the last couple of years. I'm not gonna lie,
and I'm not responding to emails either. Yeah, just bun it, man. Like Macca Diamond says, bun him.
Is it?
Like, literally, yeah. Like, it's funny. I'll give you an example. Like, we have like, yes, I want it. You know me, I'm just such an oversharer, and then I'm like, shit. We have women's initiative at work, and we had like DE&I initiatives. I just said, no, I'm not doing it. Don't want to.
Okay, that's an example.
And they're like, why?
You're so good at it.
I was like, no, I actually said I found it, like, I just found it, I think boring was the wrong word, but I found it like kind of draining, boring. I just felt like I was in a situation where it's just like, it's not my job to do this. Like Tiffany had just said, like, before all that madness happened, like, I didn't go to college for that. Like, I'm not a DE&I specialist. and I don't want to, and it's not serving me. And when I'm sitting on these Teams calls, giving ideas and things like that, I'm not getting fulfillment out of it. I'm not enjoying it.
Yeah, it's not.
And I still have all my work to get done.
Got you.
So no.
Well, on that note, I'll wrap up with the final thoughts on the topic.
I'm trying to think. I don't want to rob the listeners of work time. Yeah, there's times where I've said I don't have capacity, and if I take this on, I would say, it's kind of funny. I would say to one partner, if I take this on, I can't do your deal.
And then you say,
and then they're just going like, and then you get that email from another partner. Don't worry, we'll like re-alloc. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, there has been times I said no to work because it's like, what am I supposed to do? Work every minute that God sends. It's not worth it.
This is it.
And you know what it is I realized when I was overworking, the quality of my work was dropping.
This is the point I'm about to make.
Sorry, go on.
No, don't be sorry. But saying yes impacts our productivity and quality. So when you say yes, like undoubtedly, because there are only so many hours in a day, you become less productive and more overwhelmed. Absolutely, because you have too much on your plate.
Yeah. And even the thought of what you have to do
is tiring.
Is tiring and scary.
And then you could become bitter or resentful because you're consistently saying yes.
Yeah.
You're working on someone else's priority.
Yeah.
Which, whilst it might be important, isn't the most important thing to you.
That in and of itself can be draining and frustrating.
And anytime you say yes to one thing, you are effectively saying no to everything else that could be done in that time.
Yep. Amen.
Even if those tasks are more important.
Amen.
And we ain't trying to burn out.
Not
trying
at
to live
all.
our best lives in this soft life era. So
I'll be saying no.
All you gotta do is say no.
No, I don't like that remix. I feel like that was blasphemous.
I've got to, because Toles ain't here.
You can say no.
I try to say no.
Yeah, I prefer that.
Okay, cool. I'm done now anyway. Don't say no. Go on, wrap it up.
Say no.
I don't want to.
Say no. Say no. Say no. Say no. Say no. Hashtag the end. Hashtag say no. But no, seriously.
Let us know how you're saying no.
Yeah, let us know how you're saying no. And if there's anyone that... Because we get quite a few emails where people are asking to kind of navigate things. I'm not saying we're experts, but we can talk about it on the podcast. But...
it opens a conversation.
It opens a conversation. Right? Yes. So you can follow us. Instagram, all important places, at BWW Podcast UK. If you like today's episode, please like and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, and don't chat to me until you told one friend that told a friend that told another friend.
Yeah. Tell them.
And if you want to email us any ideas about what you want us to talk about, any points you want to keep the conversation going, our email address is blackwomenworking@gmail.com.
Okay.
blackwomenworkinguk@gmail.com.
Also, on our theme, leaving with something, like, let us know what you be leaving with.
Yeah, please do.
Like, let us know what's working out for you. Where have you said yes and it's worked? Where are you saying no?
Where is your strategy? How are you fitting your day-to-day requests that you're getting around your strategy, your vision for what you're trying to lead with?
That's right.
You know?
That's right. And until next time.